Howdy readers, I'm Jason. This is Chapter and Verse, and this is part one of my Christmas book haul. I say part one because I've been told that there are still a few books coming my way from Book Depository, and we're also expecting two books, not as Christmas presents, but two books from Library of America here in the next few weeks. So when those texts come in, I will do part two of the Christmas book haul. But let's get to part one. So the first bunch of books I'm going to be sharing with you guys were bought me either by Kelly for Christmas or by my parents for Christmas. So I'm going to start with the nonfiction and then move to fiction and then poetry and then end with a couple of books sent to me by a couple of other booktubers. The first book I got, which I've already shown, is This Republic of Suffering, Death and the American Civil War by Drew Gilpin Faust, which I will be starting very soon, here in just probably 3 or 4 days, because I'm going to be reading this in January, again, as the first book in my Mortality in Literature and Film project here on my channel. So please join me for that. This Republic of Suffering. And then this one, so this is by Paul Kingsnorth, who wrote the novel The Wake, which is freaking brilliant for those of you who haven't read it. And this is nonfiction, and this is called Confessions of a Recovering Environmentalist. And when I read online about Paul Kingsnorth and about his views on what human beings have done and are doing to the planet, and the despair he feels over that, and how he, from what I can tell, really feels like we have passed the point of no return. Those ideas pretty closely mirror my own, and so this was a treat to see under the tree this Christmas. But anyway, Paul Kingsnorth. And then the last of the nonfiction books that I got specifically for Christmas is The Boy Behind the Curtain, Notes from an Australian Life, a memoir by Tim Winton, who, God, all of you know I just love, and I don't understand why. I don't know why he is not the most widely read writer on the planet. He's so good. This will be interesting to read because The Boy Behind the Curtain is him when he was a child, and apparently when he was a kid, he would kind of lurk or wait behind the curtains in his house. I think they lived on a hill, and he had his dad's rifle, and I don't think it was loaded. Maybe it was loaded. But he would just point it at people down the hill, people who were oblivious to him doing so, and just kind of lurk there within the shadows of the curtains, which is pretty disturbing, pretty chilling. But in his short story collection I read this year, The Turning, there is a story in which a young teenage boy character does the same thing, which leads me to believe that there's maybe more in that short story collection than I had originally thought that would be autobiographical. But anyway, The Boy Behind the Curtain. Now on to the fiction. This is Fire Sermon by Jamie Quatro. And as you guys know, I am an absolute sucker for literary fiction that deals in a very mature, very thoughtful way with religion. And I've got no patience, no tolerance, no time for novels that deal in a kind of surface way or dismissively that deal with religion. Fire Sermon, from everything I've read, is definitely in the former camp. So I'm deeply excited to read this. Hey, Blue. And then the next book I want to show you guys is the book that I'm going to be reading as a buddy read this coming year with Elena Macreadna, and that is The Persian Boy by Mary Renault, which is book 2 in her Alexander the Great trilogy. And then here is a novel that I don't think I've ever seen talked about on BookTube at all. It's the first in a mystery series by a writer named Christine Carbo. And it is called The Wild Inside. My kitty is like the wild cat in the house right now. What's wrong? So about a year ago, I checked this out from the library and read like the first 30 or 40 pages, and then I just got bogged down with something else. I don't remember what. But I really liked what I read, and this is a mystery that is set in Glacier National Park in Montana. I've never driven through Glacier. There is a road called the Going to the Sun Road. I don't advise you taking that road if you are at all afraid of heights. It will take months off your life and add lots and lots of gray hair to your head. But anyway, a couple more novels. So this is it's a really cool vintage movie classics edition. This is Drums Along the Mohawk by Walter D. Edmonds. And I'm not sure until about maybe 2 years ago I even knew this was a novel. So I've seen the film based on it a long time ago. That's a John Ford movie with Henry Fonda. And the film is one of my favorites of all time. But I don't remember noticing when I saw the film all those years ago that it was based on a novel. So this was cool to see a couple of years ago when Vintage started putting out these old movie editions. Yeah, and it's a big chunky book as well. So this will be a fun read when I get to it. Let's see. And then the last novel is with apologies to Robert from Barter Hordes, because I know he hates this book. But I was really excited to get this. I love this author, and from the moment this book came out, I just thought it sounded terrific. So that is Heroes of the Frontier by Dave Eggers. So I'm sorry, Robert. I hope I like it more than you do. And now on to poetry. So my family knew I was going to be doing this project, this mortality in literature and film project, and that I was going to be reading In Memoriam. And I needed a good kind of user-friendly copy of In Memoriam. Now, Kelly and I have a really old, so old, it was printed in Tennyson's lifetime edition of Tennyson's works, which I'll probably show you guys in a video at some point down the road. But it's reasonably frail, and it wouldn't stand up to me sort of having it on my bedside table for a year, reading my way through a long poem. So here is what I'll be using instead. So this is the Penguin Classics edition of Tennyson's selected poems, and it's got In Memoriam in its entirety in here. And then the next book, this was sent to Kelly and myself from Mark at Wordsworth Everywhere, one of our best friends here on BookTube. And he sent us, this is a really beautiful little penguin hardcover, Lyrical Ballads from William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And the really nice thing about this is that even though we own some Wordsworth and Coleridge, maybe in one or two poetry anthologies that we have, Kelly and I don't have until now. We didn't have an edition of Wordsworth or an edition of Coleridge. So this is a really fine addition to our poetry collection. He also sent us licorice and stroopwafels, and the stroopwafels, I've never had a bad stroopwafel, but this package of stroopwafels, I don't know if they're from the heart of stroopwafel land or what, but they are freaking good. And then I got this in the mail today from Steve Donahue. I saw this in a mail haul on his channel recently, and he was sent kind of inexplicably a second copy of this. So he already owned it, and I called dibs as soon as I saw it. I didn't even know it existed, and I'm so excited to read this. It's such a beautiful looking thing. This is The World Only Spins Forward, The Ascent of Angels in America. And as some of you know, the Angels in America plays missed my BookTube Top 10s tag, my version of my own tag, by a whisker, just by a whisker. I absolutely love Tony Kushner's plays. I've taught them. I've read them multiple times. I love the HBO miniseries. I've seen the first of them performed on stage. So this is going to be a lot of fun to kind of dig my way into. And from what I gather, I think this is just really a kind of collection of thoughts and reflections and retrospectives and opinions on the importance of the plays. It looks like everybody from the author Tony Kushner to the actor F. Murray Abraham, who was in Amadeus, who won an Oscar for Amadeus, Andrew Garfield, Deborah Messing, Meryl Streep, Jason Isaacs, who many of you will know from the Harry Potter films. He played Malfoy's dad. But anyway, so that is The World Only Spins Forward. And that was just a nice little treat in the mail from Steve Donahue. So that is it. That is Christmas Book Haul Part 1. I'm going to film a tag video tonight. And I may do 1 or 2 more videos here in the next 4 days. I've got today and then the next 3 days off work. So yeah, I've got some more end of the year stuff that I want to get to as far as BookTube goes. But we'll see. I will see you guys in the next video. Adios.